So let me break down on the tiers for you. Broken every round operators are operators that are broken every single round. Good every round operators are operators that are good every single round. Situational operators are operators that are really, really good, but only in certain situations, right? You can't really run them every single site. Okay operators are operators that are just okay. If you bring them, no one's really gonna complain, but you can always bring better operators. And then these are operators that need to be reworked. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're like bad operators. They fundamentally just need to be reworked. With that out of the way, let's do the attacking tier list for Year 9 Season 1. First of all, we have Sledge. Sledge is good every round you pick him. No one's going to complain. Wouldn't say he's broken, like he's not in need of a nerf. I think if an operator is broken every round, they definitely need a nerf. But Sledge is just good. Thatcher, I think, is situational. Now, of course, you could bring a Thatcher every single round, but you're not going to be honest. Now, is Thatcher worse than Sledge? No. Operators in the situational tier are not necessarily worse than the operators above them or better than the operators below them. Just think of the situational tier as like in its own tier list, kind of out of place of the tier list, if you will. Ashe, I think, is good every round you play her. You're never going to have like a round where Ashe is too terribly bad, especially people that, you know, are still kind of rushing. I do think the meta is going to slow down a bit. This is, of course, before the actual season has come out, but I have been playing the test server, and I can tell you that people are still playing pretty fast paced, not really using much utility, but I think it has slowed down a little bit. That being said, I still think Ashe is pretty good every single round you play her. Now let's go over 3 hard breaches really quick. We have Thermite, Maverick, and Hibana. You can't play Thermite every single round because there are certain situations where Ace or Hibana is going to be better, like getting hatches on bank. You can't play Hibana every round because there's going to be certain situations where you need the wall to be really, really big, right? You can't play Maverick every round because sometimes you need Hibana, or you need an Ace, or you need a Thermite, right? So all 3 of these operators are situational. Now you might be wondering, why isn't Ace in situational? That's because Ace is a good every round pick. One of the best weapons in the game, an assortment of scopes, which means even if you don't end up getting the wall open, you still have a good gun that you can get kills with. So he's versatile, and that means you can bring him every single round and still get value. Chances are as well, every single site that you breach, you're going to need a wall to get open. Now, like I said, there are certain walls that are done better with certain hard breachers, but there's never a wall that you can't open with Ace and it still be bad for the team, right? If you open a wall with Hibana, that's gonna suck. If you open a wall with Thermite sometimes, that might suck because you need to open a wall from range in order to be safe, right? So Ace is not situational. You can play him every single round in ranked. So I have to put Ace in good every single round. Next is Twitch. I think Twitch is okay. I think we're starting to see a shift into maybe more of an information meta where you're running operators like Lion, Dokkaebi, Deimos, Jackal, and I don't think Twitch really has a place in a meta where you're using information with abilities instead of drone, especially with the fact that a lot of people are running mute right now because of Deimos. I think Twitch is just kind of okay. I can see Hibana being good every round, secondary hard breach, and a good entry. Having a ranged hard breach is good. You can do that with Ace. You know what I mean? And Ace is a way better entry because he's got a way better gun. Next, we'll go into Monty. I think Monty is just as situational. There are certain times where you can play Monty really well. Like, let's say you're attacking Rafters on Clubhouse. You can play the shit out of Monty on Rafters and Clubhouse. Whereas, like, certain bomb sites, you just can't push with the Monty. It's just not that viable. Glaz, I think, needs a rework. Now, the reason I think Glaz needs a rework is because Glaz, as an operator, he's not a bad operator. Like I said, operators in the rework section aren't necessarily bad. I think they just need to be changed. And Glaz is just Warden, but slightly worse. Now, Glaz is a good entry. The issue with Glaz is now that everybody has an ACOG, everybody can still use DMRs if they have a DMR to do what Glaz does, but even better. And because people are bringing smokes with Glaz, a lot of the time they're getting countered by Warden anyway, so I don't think Glaz is as viable. The next operator is Fuse. Now, I think Fuse is okay every round to bring him. Even in the situational cases where Fuse can be good, I still think there are better operators that do Fuse's job but better, like Ram or like Flores. I don't think there's really a place for Fuse in the meta currently. IQ is situational. You're only going to bring IQ if there's stuff that IQ can counter. So the only time you really pick an IQ is when you're droning through the prep phase and you see, oh, they have a Valkyrie, let me pick IQ. You're never gonna just single-handedly pick IQ. Blitz, I think, is situational. Honestly, with how the shield rework is going right now, you could put it in good every round because of just how good shields are right now, but I'm gonna put Blitz in situational. Again, the season hasn't really rolled out yet. I've just been playing the test server for a few while, so like it's just situational that I can see so far. Buck, I think, is good every single round. Now, the DMR having an ACOG is great. I love Buck DMR. The AR having an ACOG is great. Also having flash grenades, a Gon 6, hard reaching charges. I think Buck is just good every single round. Now we're starting to see the shift of people playing a little bit slower, holding a little bit longer of angles, and the ability to have shotguns to utilize and make those angles for the ACOG on his DMR or his AR makes Buck Buck even more meta than he was last season, to be completely honest. So we're starting to see a playstyle shift, and honestly, this list is kind of subject to change based off of what's going to happen in the new meta, but I'm pretty confident that no matter what happens, Buck will be good every single round. Now, before we continue, I do want to mention that none of these operators are ordered inside of their tiers. So I'm not saying Thatcher is better than Thermite or Hibana is better than Blitz. I'm just throwing operators in their tiers. With that being said, though, let's go into the next operator, which I think is Blackbeard. I think Blackbeard needs a rework. Now, they are actually reworking Blackbeard. If you haven't seen the Year 9 roadmap, in Year 9 Season 4, they're going to have a Blackbeard rework, which I'm super excited about, and them announcing that is enough for me to put Blackbeard in rework. But if you've played the game for more than 100 hours, you know that Blackbeard is a really bad operator, so I don't really feel like I need to explain myself on that one. An operator that I do need to explain myself, though, is Capitao, who I think is situational. You don't really have the ability to bring Capitao every single site and not have an operator that outshines him in some other aspect. Now, there are certain situations where he can be better than other operators, but again, that's situational, which is why I put him in the situational category. Someone who is much less situational, though, would be Jackal, who honestly I think is broken every single round, and there's a reason why. With Deimos being in the game, that means people are going to be banning Deimos a lot, because Deimos is very, very powerful right now, especially if you know how to use that revolver. This means that less people are going to be banning Jackal, and less people are going to be banning Dokkaebi, and less people are going to be banning Lion, which means we're going to start, again, to see the surface of an information meta, where people are going to be running Jackal and Deimos once a game, or they'll run Jackal and Dokkaebi, or they'll run Jackal and Lion and Dokkaebi, right? Or they'll run Jackal and Blitz. So the Jackal combo with other operators is going to be very good right now. Again, I've been playing the test server. People are picking up Jackal a lot more, because not only can you track somebody, but once you've tracked somebody, which will red ping them and alert them, Deimos can then track them, and that's the entire team that can now see one person's location, and Deimos, who has a continuous ping on that person. So that person is done for unless they're sitting on site. Why? And that's another reason why I think Jackal is just like S tier right now. This is 10 out of 10 so far. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ying, right now, I think you could put Ying in between good and broken every single round. Now, the reason that I'm saying that Ying has the candidacy to be put in the broken every single round category is because of Pro League. Pro League players typically are good at the game because they're in Pro League, and ranked players notice this and therefore take from the meta and they put it in the ranked meta, from Pro League meta, right? So a lot of people are seeing that Ying is being played a lot in Pro League because this is the one counter that they found to the Fenrir Azami Turbo Arcade meta. The teams with the only positive attacking win rates, we're talking Team Liquid, G2, are like 51% or higher attacking win rates. They're the teams that are running Ying almost every single round. So that's why I think we're going to start to see a lot of Ying gameplay in this season. I don't know. I think Ying's just going to be played a lot because of the new meta that's coming in, and I think having a fast-paced attack is the only way to counter this slowing down of the defense, which I think Ying is going to be very capable of doing. Ying will be the new permaban after Deimos release and Doke nerf. I do agree. I think Ying's gonna be banned a lot in the higher elo, for sure. Next, we have Zofia. Zofia is good every round. It's probably one of the most well thought out, well balanced operators in the entire game. If you play Zofia every round, no one's gonna complain because you bring good utility, but she's not necessarily broken like somebody like Jackal or Ying, or for that matter, like Dokkaebi. I think Dokkaebi's a broken operator. Now, they haven't nerfed Dokkaebi yet this season, but they are going to nerf Dokkaebi soon. But until then, Dokkaebi's a broken operator, especially with the introduction of Deimos. Now, what I've seen a lot of players doing, and something that I've honestly tried to coin, is Deimos and Dokkaebi together. Because the issue with Deimos is that only Deimos can see who he's pinging. None of the other defenders can see that. This makes it to where Deimos gets really, really tunnel visioned on one person, and they forget about all the other teammates that one person might have. This is due to the fact that that one teammate that Deimos is tracking will just go next to his teammates, and then the teammates will refrag you once Deimos kills you, or just kill the Deimos in general. But if you have a Dokkaebi on your team, the Dokkaebi can call as you're tracking, meaning that before the Deimos runs in and tries to kill the person, he can hear all of the defenders waiting around him, which I think is going to be very good, especially in a ranked setting when people are just running in with Deimos and they don't really know what they're doing. Next, we have Lion. Again, I think we're in an information meta. I think DMRs are still very prevalent, especially with ACOGs being added into the game and every single Pro League player using DMRs. So I think Lion is broken for the same exact reason I put all of the other information operators in broken. Not only this, but even before it was an information meta, it was a TDM meta. And Lion was very good in the TDM meta. And I think the transition from a TDM meta to an information meta will make Lion still viable because he was viable in a TDM meta. So it doesn't matter what type of players we have in whatever meta, because information and TDM meta are both metas that very heavily suit Lion. Even with me saying all of this, last time in the TDM meta, I was putting Lion in good, and now I'm putting Lion in broken. Why did I step him up there? Well, again, it's because of the combinations of the new operators that are coming out. People are starting to ban Dokkaebi, Jackal, and Deimos less, which means Lion can be played in tandem with those operators that are being banned less. And, like I said, Pro League is a great way to look at where the ranked meta will be in a few seasons, with some few exceptions. And DMRs are a great way that people are starting to adapt to the new meta that's going on right now, especially with scopes being added into the game. So Lion, with a good DMR, one of the best in the entire game, I think is going to be broken every single round you play Lion, and he has one of the highest skill ceilings in the entire game. So if that doesn't tell you Lion's broken, I don't know what else. Somebody who's way less broken, though, that came out the same season as Lion would be Finka, and I think Finka is okay. I don't think Finka needs a full rework, but any operator that I put in okay definitely needs to be buffed in one or two ways to make them viable. So just needs to be buffed slightly. Next is Nomad. Now, a lot of people are going to get mad at me for what I'm about to say here, but I think Nomad is situational. Now, a lot of people put Nomad in good and put Nomad in broken, but the issue with Nomad is if you have 2 brain cells, you realize that if you're a defender, all you have to do is slowly walk up to the air jab and then shoot it, and then it's done. And if you have a silenced weapon, which a lot of roamers have now because of the suppressor buff, you won't even be able to hear the people that are flanking you and shooting your air jabs. At least with Gridlock, they have to put multiple bullets into the air jab, and it makes noise whenever it gets destroyed, but Nomad doesn't have that luxury. Also, people are still playing Solus a bunch, and Solus can see where the air jabs are, and therefore impact the air jabs with ease, which makes her not that useful. The only time Nomad is useful is on maps where you cannot see her air jabs, which are not maps like Villa or Cafe where you can easily shoot them, or on places where you're trying to not get ran out on, because I think if you position air jabs in a certain way on runouts, they can't be countered, but the same can't be said for flanks. So Nomad is not a flank watch operator, or at least a good one at that. She is a good runout operator. Somebody who is a much better flank watch operator, in my opinion, is Gridlock, and I think Gridlock is good every single round that you bring her. Now, I know people are going to hate me for putting Gridlock above Nomad, but honestly, I think she's a better operator. With the versatility that she brings, with the amount of buffs that she's been given, and just with her gun being so good, and the fact that you can get plants down with her, and make it way easier for your plants to not be diffused, I think Gridlock is great in this meta. People, I think, are just stuck in the nostalgia of Nomad being a great operator, that they're going to be mad at the Nomad pick, but I think she's highly underrated, and I think Gridlock is just a much better version of what Nomad used to be. Now, my next operator is Nock. Now, I know that I said that we're in an information meta, which technically would mean that operators that deny information would be meta, right? Not necessarily the case. Nomad, I don't think she needs to be reworked necessarily, but I do think she needs a buff. I think having her silent step back would be great. Maybe make it to where she can't have ACOGs on her primary SMG, but I think even with that, people are still going to opt to play Yana. They're still going to opt to play Ashe or Zero, so Nock won't even be that powerful if they buff her. So I think she needs a buff. I don't think she needs a rework. I think she needs a buff, which is why I put her in okay and not in the rework section, because right now she's like eh. She's an operator at best. Next, we have Amaru. I think Amaru... There's 2 places you can put Amaru on this tier list. You can put Amaru in rework, because her gadget arguably is pretty terrible and doesn't really make sense for the current game of Siege. Or you can put Amaru in situational, because there are one situation where you can play Amaru and her be effective. The one single-handed situation that you can play Amaru and be effective is in the consulate window. That's it. That's the only time I see Amaru being effective, and even then, people have adapted to that strategy and put thorn traps there, or pre-placed nitros. So the only time you can really play Amaru is if you're in a 5-stack and you have a coordinated push with her. But again, this is a solo queue ranked tier list, so Amaru needs a rework. I'm sorry. She kind of sucks, dude. She honestly kind of sucks as an operator. Someone who is a much needed breath of fresh air is Yana. Yana, I think, is a good every round pick. I don't think she's broken, especially after the frag grenade nerfs, but I do think she's a good operator. I think in terms of entry fraggers, she's definitely up there with, let's say, Sledge and Ashe, if you consider Sledge to be an entry fragger. So, Yana, definitely just a good pick every round. You can't really go wrong with her. Yana could dick me down. What? Huh? Yo, mods? Someone who I definitely think needs a rework would be Callie. Now, like I said, I don't think the operators in the rework section are bad. I do think Callie actually has her situational place in the meta currently, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that she needs a rework all the same, right? At least Nomad, she is situational, but she doesn't need a rework, right? Callie's situational, but she damn sure needs a rework. Like, for certain needs a rework. Now, the issue with why I think she needs a rework is because her utility destroys her teammate's utility. So she'd be really good in this meta because people are playing Cade and Turbo, right? But you can't use Callie to help with that because every time you put a Callie Lance on the wall, it destroys your H charges or it destroys your Thermite, so it's not really that good. Now, you can say that like, oh, she can be used to get Azamis. She can be used to get castles. Well, one, Azamis just got nerfed. So you can use any gun and just spray down the Azamis and they're gone. Two, if you want to get rid of castles, play Sledge. Play Flores. Play anybody with frag grenades. To go on 6. You don't need to play Callie and hinder yourself as much as you would by playing a sniper operator, right? So that's why I had to put Callie in rework. Did Jaeger get ACOG back? No, he didn't. He did not. There are a bunch of other operators that got ACOG back, but Jaeger was not one of them, unfortunately. One can hope, yeah. That's all you can do. A lot of operators did, though. Jackal did, Ying did, Dokkaebi had a DMR, so obviously. Lion, Sledge, Ashe, Yana, Ace, Buck, Zofia. I don't know if Gridlock did. She probably did, though. I mean, most of the gut operators did, so it's like, dude, R4C ACOG, are you kidding me? It's so good. Anyways, back to the list. Zero, I think, is good every single round. Now, my opinions with Zero have changed every single tier list I've made because I can't really put Zero in a tier list and actually be happy with it because honestly, you could stick Zero in any one of these tiers and make a case for it to be good other than rework. But like, Zero could be broken if in the right hands. But the issue with Zero is that he's not broken because most of the time he's not in the right hands. What do I mean by this? Zero naturally is a flank watch operator, but in order for you to actually do the flank watch, you need to be on his cameras. Now, the thing with Gridlock, or the thing with Nomad is you don't need to be on their utility. You just set it down and you forget about it, right? Very good for a solo queue player who just wants to, for someone who just wants to go about their day, right? Zero, though, if you don't have any dead teammates, unless you're watching your cams, no one's watching your cams. So they're useless. Even if your teammates die, you're in a solo queue environment, you can't really reliably have your teammates watch the cameras or give callouts for that matter. So even then, his Zero cameras are still useless. But if you have teammates you can rely on, or if you're the one watching the flank cameras, I think in terms of versatility, Zero is one of the best operators out there. I don't think he's broken like Jackal, Dokkaebi, or Lion, but I definitely think Zero's up there, so I'll put Zero in good for every single round. Next is Flores, and at the same time, we're going to talk about Brava, because both of these droning operators are situational. The reason these operators are situational is because you're only going to bring them in the certain situation that somebody has utility that you can counter. So let's say that they're playing a lineup like Vigil, Warden, or any operator that doesn't bring much electronic utility, then Brava is going to be useless. Now you can say, oh, we can hack default cameras. Well, at that point, just put a drone there, or put a Zero cam there, or Twitch drone the 90 camera, right? Like, who cares about Brava? She's not that good if you're not bringing utility to hack. Same thing with Flores. If they're not bringing a zombie, if they're not bringing Fenrir, if they're not bringing deployable shields, if they're not bringing barbed wire, which honestly they do most of the time, but regardless, Flores is not going to be as useful in those scenarios. So you have to wait for them to bring utility for either of these operators to be useful, which is why I have to, in good faith, put them in situational. Next is Osa. I think Osa is good every single round you bring her. With EMP grenades and the amount of scopes that she has and the ability to turn defender angles into attacker angles, which most operators can't do, I think Osa is very, very powerful. The next operator we have is Sense. Now here's the thing about Sense. With the new gadget deployment in the game where it shows you where the gadget's going to actually be deployed, it's pretty good, but it doesn't show you where the rest of the gadget's going to deploy. So you might be able to think, hey, I'm going to throw the Sense wall down and it's going to land right here, but you don't know where it's going to go after it lands. So sure, you won't have the issue of it not bouncing where you want it to when it first starts, but you will still have that issue once it starts going. Not only that, but still, there's too many counters to Sense to where they're not viable. Now, with the fact that you can see where it's at least going to deploy, that is a huge buff to Sense. And now that Sense has the ACOGs as well, I think Sense can be situational if you know Sense lineups. But if you don't, I think I would put Sense in okay, because I still need Sense to be buffed a little bit for them to be viable. But for now, I would put Sense in situational okay. You can make an argument for, even rework, you could probably still make an argument for. But I do think there's certain situations where you can use Sense lineups if you just go into a custom game for 5 minutes and figure it out before the game. Next is Grim. Now, I used to think that Grim and Capitao were essentially the same operator, but just kind of different takes on that operator. And I used to honestly think the same thing about Grim and Lion. But Grim is a bit weird because everybody's picking Grim now. And because they're starting to realize that Grim is no longer just a situational operator like Capitao is. You could actually viably bring Grim every single round, as long as you have the brain to know where the Grim gadget is going to go, right? You know where it bounces if you play Grim long enough. You know how how the B canister is going to fall. And I mean, again, I'm going to bring this back to Pro League. Pro League plays Grim almost every single game because they realize how good Grim can be, especially after the buffs. So I'm not going to put Grim in situational. I'm going to put Grim in good every round, because if you bring Grim every single round and you're good at Grim, Grim can be good every single round. Moving on to the final two operators, the first of which is going to be Ram. Now, Ram, most people would say good every round, but I don't think that's true. I think Ram is situational because you can only viably use Ram and her be powerful and to her fullest potential if you're on a site where you're playing above the site, and you can only do that on first floor or basement sites. You can't do it on top floor sites, which means you can't play Ram every single round and her be good, which is why I had to put Ram in situational. Again, I don't think any of the operators here in situational are worse than these here. Again, just put situational in its own tier list, but Ram is situational. And then finally, the long-awaited new operator, Deimos. I've been hyping Deimos up, but honestly, the test server just came out. It's a little too early to see where Deimos stacks up, but from what I've seen, the best attacker they've released in years. Hands down. The best attacker they have released since probably Dokkaebi. To be honest. I mean Ram maybe, but I'm looking through this list and I don't see any attackers that are this good on release. Yeah, no attacker compares to how Deimos is on release. Now again, still early in the season, this is all subject to change, but from what I've seen, as long as you can use Deimos' revolver, he is like Jackal level tier of broken every single round. And after this new season comes out and you're able to ban him, I see Deimos getting banned almost every single game. Here's the thing though, because it's early in the season, people are starting to realize Deimos' counters. Whether it be just playing with your teammates, running back to site, whether it be playing with a mute, playing with a visual, there are ways to counter Deimos. So if you want to put Deimos in good every round, I think he could deserve that too. But people are just not good enough to do it right now, and because again it's a meta basis off of what this tier list is, I have to put Deimos in broken. Deimos is just crazy. He's just that good right now. And he even gets better if you're stacking with teammates and you can get information on him, because then you're essentially live pinging somebody for the duration of his ability to your entire team, because now your entire team knows where they are based off of your callouts. So even in a solo queue environment, I think Deimos is broken. So imagine if you're giving callouts, how broken Deimos would be. Crazy broken is how broken he would be. But with that out of the way, that's it for this video. Check out this next video. My name's Alka, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.